But I will give you many other names amongst the scholars who said that it is mubah and who said it is makruh. Before I come to that, this brother also said that Dr. Zakir, he respects Nasruddin, he respects Ibn Taymiyyah, he respects Ibn Taymi, and these people said haram. So why is he not agreeing with that? This is not an argument. Let me tell you, brother, yes, all these scholars I respect. I consider them to be the A-star scholars. But I'm not a muqallid of any scholar, whether it be Ibn Taymiyyah, whether it be Nasruddin Albani, whether it be Sheikh bin Baz, whether it be Sheikh Ibn Taymi. Majority of the fatwa, I agree. But out of 1,000 fatwa they give, I may disagree with few. I respect Ibn Taymiyyah, but there are a few fatwas that I disagree with. And one of them is this. I respect Sheikh Ibn Taymi. I believe in almost all their fatwas, but not 100%. It may be 99 point some percent. It may be 98%. Out of 1,000 fatwas they give, I may disagree with 5. I believe in Sheikh bin Baz, alhamdulillah. Out of 1,000 fatwas he has given, I may disagree with 10, 15, 20. Just because I respect them, that doesn't mean that I have to follow 100% what they say. If this is your argument, I would like to tell you, brother, that you also respect all these scholars. Do you know? All of these scholars, they said, these scholars, I'm talking about Sheikh Nasruddin Albani, Sheikh bin Baz, they said photograph is haram. Why do you take photographs? Sheikh Nasruddin Albani says that videography is haram, and all these so-called students of knowledge, I don't consider any to be scholars who spoke about me in the video. Most of them, they respect Sheikh Nasruddin Albani. Sheikh Nasruddin Albani has clearly said that videography and photography both are haram. But that doesn't mean that if you respect Sheikh Nasruddin Albani, you have to believe in him 100%. You may believe in 99%, you may believe 98%. If this is the argument, then why do you take out photograph? Why do you take out video? Anyway, I don't want to go to the debating mode. I love you, brother. I like to thank you for correcting me, even if it is one thing you corrected. Jazakallah, may Allah reward you. But this is not an argument that because Dr. Zakir Naik respects someone, he has to follow 100%. If that is the argument, why do you take out photograph? Why do you take out video? I know Sheikh Utaimi has 2 fatwas, but his major fatwa is that it is permitted. But some of them, he did say it is not regarding photography. Let's not go into the detail. I've discussed that in detail, I think last week or before that. But my point to be said is that all those students of knowledge who spoke about me, most of them respect Sheikh Nasruddin Albani. Yet you take out video, yet you take out photographs. This is not a point of argument at all. Now coming to your question. What did Ibn Taymiyyah say? I don't mind at all if someone gives the view. That's it. But if there is a difference of opinion, I feel it is important that a person should give both the views. And in my answer, if you listen, I gave both the views. I didn't hide. I did not name all the scholars who said it is haram, but the major scholars I did say. That Sheikh Nasruddin Albani says it is haram, Sheikh bin Baz says it is haram, I said Sheikh Ibn Taymi said haram. I didn't go into details. Today I'll go into detail. What you quoted about Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Taymi, you did not give the full quotation. I do agree they say haram, but they also say that there is difference of opinion. And they say, majority say it is haram, but some say it is halal. And they even agree that they have a right to say it is permitted. And I'll give the quotation. But these scholars say it is haram. I'm giving some more quotations with references of Tabain, Tabain and scholars who said it is makruh or permitted. Amir bin Dinar is narrated to have said, I do not see any problem in masturbation in Abdul Razak in his Musannaf, Hadith 13594. It's mentioned in Abdul Razak in his Musannaf, in Hadith 13586, that Ibn Jurayj quoted Atta that he considered masturbation as makruh. It's further mentioned in Abdul Razak in his Musannaf, Hadith 13593, that Mujahid is narrated to have said, the early generations used to command their youth to practice masturbation. I repeat, Mujahid is narrated to have said, the early generations used to command their youth to practice masturbation. Talking about the Salaf. I'm giving reference, Abdul Razak in his Musannaf, Hadith 13593. Now I'll come to what I was referring to. Scholars quoting narration of Ibn Abbas without saying it is unauthentic. And here you have the fatwa of Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah in his Az-Zuhud wal-Ibadah on page number 15. He says, if restraining oneself from marrying slaves is better than marrying them, to masturbate then is more so. That means he disagrees with masturbation, especially when many scholars, most of whom emphatically forbid it. Besides, it is one of the opinions of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, may Allah have mercy on him, which was adopted by Ibn Aqil in Al-Mufradat. Although what is known widely about Ahmad is that it is haram, unless one fears unavoidable sin, that is fornication, sodomy, etc. That means Ibn Taymiyyah agrees that there are two views of Ahmad. But he agrees more in the view of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who says it is haram. Then he says, masturbation is not permissible in the sight of most scholars in early and later generation. Who's saying this? Ibn Taymiyyah. Whether sin is feared or not. The reported statements of Ibn Abbas and what is narrated by Ahmad is only for who extremely feared sin, which is adultery and sodomy. Now, Ibn Taymiyyah says, he quotes Ibn Abbas. Now when he quotes Ibn Abbas, saying that what he meant was only those who feared sin, that means Ibn Taymiyyah is agreeing with the reference of Ibn Abbas. That's the reason I quoted. And Ibn Taymiyyah is saying about Ibn Abbas, I assume that will be authentic. But since you gave me the reference of Ibn Hazm, who's a muhaddith, I agree with you. Inshallah, in future, I will never say that Ibn Abbas has said it. It is a daif narration, I agree with you. But I'm giving you the reference where I took it from. So it is allowed for them in order to bridle their lust. However, doing so for mere gratification by remembering some images and fencing having sex with them is all haram. Neither Ahmad nor other adopted it. Ibn Taymiyyah in his Az-Zuhd wal-Ibadah. I'll come to it where Ibn Taymiyyah quotes other scholars also. I'll give the fatwa of Ibn Taymiyyah. And I do agree with you. You said he is a faqih. And according to me, amongst the recent scholars in the last about 20-30 years, I do agree that Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, he was a great faqih. I respect him. I consider him a star. Alhamdulillah. But there are some fatwas I disagree, and one of them is this. What does Ibn Taymiyyah say in his Ash-Shara al-Mumti, 321/14? Now he says it's haram, but listen to his full fatwa. He says, as for consensus, there is no consensus. This is talking about masturbation. You never said this. Ibn Taymiyyah says, as for consensus, there is no consensus because there are scholars who permitted it, but the reference when there is conflict is to the book of God and the sunnah of the messenger. May God bless him and grant him peace. He further says, if someone were to say, was it not reported from the predecessors? Was it not reported from the Salafs that they would ask their children to practice it when they travel during the raids so as to be in no need for anything else? So we say yes. Who's saying this? Ibn Taymiyyah. And he continues, but this is based on necessity, not in the absolute sense, because as long as we have evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah or from correct consideration, the early generation could not do anything forbidden, but it is carried on in a permissible state. So Ibn Taymiyyah agrees there is a difference of opinion. All the people who gave their views, all the 8 people that I heard, all of them thought as though there is no difference of opinion. None of them said that yes, there is difference of opinion, but I agree with the majority, no problem. In my answer, I was very clear cut that there was difference of opinion. Majority said it's haram. I believe in the minority group of scholars. I gave the dalil, I gave the logic, and many people appreciated it. I'm not asking you to agree with what I say. But don't go to say that not a single person, maybe here or there, one person said it is permitted. No. And when you're quoting the scholars, give the full quotation. Don't give half. If you quote half and it means otherwise. So when this brother was talking to me, why doesn't Dr. Zakir Naik, he believes in Ibn Taymiyyah, he believes in Ibn Taymiyyah. This brother may not be aware that Ibn Taymiyyah also agrees the difference of opinion. Ibn Taymiyyah believes the difference of opinion. Let's read or hear what Ibn Taymiyyah says in his Al-Fatwa Al-Kubra 3/439. He says, Ibn Taymiyyah, as for masturbation by the hand, it is forbidden by the majority of the scholars. But it is the most correct of the 2 views of the school of Ahmad. That means Ahmad ibn Hanbal had one view that it is permitted. The other view there holds that it is makruh, not haram. but most of them do not allow it whether there is a fear of falling into sin or not. However, a group of Sahaba and Tabain allowed for necessity, such as fearing committing adultery where there is no other means to avoid it except through masturbation, or such as when he fears if he does not do it, he will get some illness. This is the view of Ahmad and others. However, without necessity, I do not know of anyone who says it is permitted. Allah knows best. Furthermore, Ibn Taymiyyah says in his Muqtasar al-Fatwa al-Misriya, the Egyptian Fatwa, page number 34, masturbation is haram in the sight of majority of the scholars, and it is most prevalent view narrated about Ahmad and others is that it is makruh. But if he fears falling into adultery or getting ill, if he does not do it, there are two well-known views. A good number of earlier and later generations allowed it in this case. I'm quoting now Al-Mughni by Ibn Qudama, 3/156. He says that, and whoever is permitted to break his fast due to the severity of his lust, if he is able to alleviate such desires without intercourse, such as masturbating with his hand or the hand of his wife or his slave girl, it is not permissible for him to have intercourse. Because he broke his fast due to necessity, so it is not permissible for him to exceed what can remove such pressing necessity. That means here Ibn Qudama says that masturbation is not a form of sexual intercourse. Because when you are fasting and if you have a sexual intercourse with your wife or with your slave girl, it is the biggest sin while fasting. It breaks the fast, it's the biggest sin. There's kafara. You have to fast for 60 consecutive days without missing a single. If you miss one, again start 60. If not, you have to free a slave. If not, you have to feed 60 people. Masturbation also breaks the fast, but it is not same as sexual intercourse. In that case, you have to compensate for the fast you have broken, and you have to fast after Ramadan, one fast which you broke, but you don't have to give the kafara of fasting 60 days or freeing a slave or feeding 60 people. The answer is long. I'll just cut it short. I don't want to speak for long. The person who said that there's the ijma of the scholars that masturbation is haram, and qad, 1 here or there may have said it. 1 here or there means, maybe someone who has no knowledge may have said it. I would like to point out to him. Now there are scholars who said masturbation is not haram. Al-Atrazi, he said not haram when relieving oneself from the stress of lust. Abu Bakr al-Iskaf, not haram when avoiding doing sin. Ibn Abidin, not haram when relieving oneself from the stress of lust, but it is haram to stimulate oneself sexually in order to masturbate. Fourth, Ibn al-Humam, not haram when relieving oneself from the stress of lust. Dr. Khalid al-Musleh, he is a great Saudi Mufti, not haram when necessary to relieve oneself from the stress of lust. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, according to one of his narrative views, it is not haram. Now, there is another group of scholars who say it is makruh, very clearly. Even the above groups permitted, but not placing whether it's makruh or mubah. These group of scholars emphatically mention it is makruh. One of them is Atah, other is Ibn Hazm, which I quoted. No evidence it is haram, although morally not appropriate. Ibn Aqil, better than marrying a slave woman. Jabir bin Zayd, student of Ibn Abbas, he said it is makruh. Mardawi, makruh, but can be mubah or mustahab if fear of fornication. Mardawi says it is makruh, but if you fear fornication, it can be mubah, it can also be mustahab. There's another group of scholars who say it is mubah. Mubah means you can do it whenever you want, there is no sin at all, you don't require a reason for it. And that list is also quite big. It's not one or two. Mubah. One of them is Mujahid. He said it is mubah. Amir bin Dinar, it is mubah. Al-Ala bin Ziyad, he said it is mubah. Al-Hasan al-Basri, mubah. As-Sayyid as-Sabiq does not see any harm. And one of my major reasons, dalil, why I said it is makruh, is the statements of Ash-Shawqani. Sheikh Muhammad bin Ali Abdullah Ash-Shawqani is a great scholar, and he lived in the 19th century. and I think he died in 1839, close to that, about 180 years ago. So he's a scholar about 2 centuries old. And he's famous. The question posed by this brother, the second brother, who said not a single tafsir said that masturbation is permitted. And we know that Sheikh Shawkhani, may Allah have mercy on him, he wrote the Fath al-Qadir, and I'm quoting. In his book, the Fath al-Qadir, he writes regarding this verse of the Quran of Surah Mu'minun, chapter number 23, verse number 5 and 7. And he says, Ash-Shawkhani, while commenting on the verse, Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse 5 to 7, he says, what is prohibited is having sex with other than the 2 mentioned, your wife and the slave girl. Furthermore, he refers the reader to a book he himself authored specially for masturbation. He wrote a separate book only on masturbation, entitled Bulugh al-Muna fi Hukum al-Istimna. I repeat, he wrote a special book exclusively saying that masturbation is mubah. It is not haram, it is not makruh. And the title of that book is Bulugh al-Muna fi Hukum al-Istimna, where he refutes that the verses having anything to do with banning masturbation, as the verses speak only about illegal sex, and masturbation is not a sexual intercourse with anyone. So to say that not a single tafsir, and Fath al-Qadir, mashallah, it's a very famous tafsir, it's a respected tafsir. I do agree that most of the tafsir are silent on this issue. There are many tafsir who say it is haram and masturbation is haram based on this verse. I didn't try and hide that. But to say that not a single tafsir says that masturbation is not included in this verse, this I'm quoting from Sheikh Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Abdullah Ash-Shawkhani. Now, coming to the last argument of mine. What you have to realize that normally, even I have this habit, when someone asks something which is makruh, and I don't want to make it light, I give answer without mentioning it is haram. But I want the person not to do it. And the best example is that someone asks me that can I stand and drink water? I will say, don't stand and drink water. The Prophet said, you should not stand and drink water. Finish. You may conclude Dr. Zakir Naik said it is haram. I know very well. Standing and drinking water is not haram, it is makruh. There are many hadiths in Bukhari and Muslim where the Prophet said, don't stand and drink water. But there's a hadith in Bukhari by Ali radhiallahu anhu. He said that many people think that standing and drinking water is haram, but I've seen the Prophet drink the way I'm drinking and he shouldn't drink water. So based on this, standing and drinking is makruh. But I will not go and tell him that, no, it is not haram, it is makruh, so better you don't stand. I will tell him, don't stand and drink water. The Prophet said that. This is the way. Or I would say, it is better not to stand and drink water. So many of the scholars of the present time, when they ask this question, many a time they give this answer that better don't do masturbation. That doesn't mean that they think it is haram. And I've spoken to a few of them, I will not name them, because this is what they want. They don't want the world to come to know what is their view. And even I do the same. But to say amongst today no scholar, and I told you that today I feel the scholars are very few. In the full world, there may be a few hundred. Maximum maybe little less than 1,000, little more than 1,000. But students of knowledge, every year there are tens of thousands of students of knowledge passing. There are hundreds of thousands of students of knowledge throughout the world. But they are not scholars. So this is the way they say. And even I avoided answering this question. Why did I answer it now? I'll come to it later on. Regarding the question, that did any scholar today say it is mubah? Yes. I did not say all these things because I wanted to keep it in a subtle way giving the answer, so that I don't want people now, when I quote this scholar, he is not saying it is makruh, he's saying it is mubah. And who is he? Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq. He is amongst the Kubar ulama of Saudi Arabia. You know, the 10 Kubar ulama? He's very famous. And I consider him to be a scholar. He's one of the few scholars who are living today. He was asked by a newspaper, and this was quote newspaper, As-Sabaq. And if you go on the internet, you will find even his videos there. He's saying it. So there is no doubt about it. And I will give you the translation of what he said. When Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq was asked about masturbation, he says, it is a disputable issue and the majority of the scholars view it as haram. However, I am one of those who believe it is permissible. That means it is mubah. I am one of those who believe it is permissible due to today's world's temptation. And one doing it is not transgressing. That means, according to Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq, he says masturbation doesn't come in transgressing. That means it doesn't come in the verse of the Quran of Surah Mu'minun, chapter number 23, verse number 5, that guard your private parts, and verse number 5 and 6, except with your wife and what your right hand possesses, and all those who cross this limit, they're transgressing. Sheikh Abdullah Mutlaq, like Sheikh Shawkani, says it doesn't fall in this category. He is merely putting his hand to his private part. Who is saying this? Sheikh Abdullah Mutlaq. He is not transgressing. He is merely putting his hand to his private parts. Based on that, he may do it when he needs to do it, but to keep away from it is better. So Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq, and I know him personally, he's a great scholar, and he is amongst the Kubar ulama. So if you want to call amongst the 10 top scholars of Saudi Arabia, I would say he's one of them. So what would you say? This person, would you say that Sheikh Abdullah Mutlaq has no right to speak about Islam? Will you say that Sheikh Shawkani, he should not speak? He goes on to say that Dr. Zakir Naik is expert in Islam and comparative religion. He should not talk on fiqh. If I tell to these speakers that don't talk on comparative religion, that's not you have a right to speak on comparative religion. I don't consider myself even to be a scholar on comparative religion. I consider myself to be a student. Alhamdulillah, I know the usul of fiqh. I had staff, so many, mashallah, full time for years together. I've sat with scholars, I've studied with some. I'm not claiming to be a scholar at all, but I do consider myself to be a student of knowledge. I consider myself to be a da'i. I have a right to my opinion because I know the usul of fiqh. Now what will you talk about these scholars? Would you lay the same allegation on them? Sheikh Shawkani, and none of these people are better than Sheikh Shawkani. Again, I would like to thank all the students of knowledge who did was for me. I would like to thank them. And I have no problem. You have your view, it is haram, alhamdulillah. I yet respect you. So I deserve the same thing. If I differ, it is not I'm getting something out of the box. It is not something I'm saying something which no scholar has said before. So I would request you to do your research. I'm talking about these two people, the others, alhamdulillah. Do your research well. You may disagree with me. I have no problem. Majority may disagree. But don't say that I'm just getting out of the blue. Regarding the question, that if I did not speak for so many years, why did I give this answer? I'm a medical doctor. And what I've realized that while I was in the medical college, I had a lot of Muslim friends who are also doctors. And they used to always comment that how come our shuyukh say that masturbation, there's loss of memory, masturbation, there is blindness. And you go today on many of these websites of these shuyukhs, they are scholars. They say masturbation, again, blindness, masturbation, loss of memory. Where do they get this from? So I being a medical doctor, and there are necessities. Many a time, there are many Muslims who are good pious and they come and tell me that, Brother Zakir, I masturbate, I'm feeling guilty, and then they cannot pray well, they cannot concentrate on their salah. So I tell them, brother, okay, it is makruh. Try and avoid it. But if you have to do it, don't have so much guilt that you cannot pray. Don't have so much guilt that you cannot do ibadah. That was my only reason. Now let me tell you very clearly, there's something like fatwa and there's something like taqwa. And I always say that when there is difference of opinion between the scholars, take this example, masturbation. The majority of the scholars say that it is haram. Some say it is mubah. Some say it is makruh. There are minority. What should you do? I said, when there is difference of opinion, follow the higher level. Because if you don't do it, no one will say it is haram not to do it, but natural. So I would say, generally, if there is difference of opinion, to go to the higher level. Even if you agree with the scholars who say makruh, that is your fatwa, taqwa would be, don't do it. And the best example is of Sheikh al-Albani. Sheikh al-Albani, he gives the fatwa that naqab is not fard. I know there's a great deal of scholars, and most of the scholars that we have today, whether it be bin Baz, whether it be Sheikh Taymiyyah, Abdul ibn Jibreen, they say naqab is fard. Sheikh Nasir al-Albani says it is not fard, it is mubah. Or it's mustahab, but it's not fard. That doesn't mean that they have to fight among themselves. But as far as his women folk were concerned, whether they were his wives and his daughters, they did niqab. That is his taqwa. So my request to the people is that it is best to avoid, don't masturbate at all. When it goes to limits where it is unavoidable, etc., avoid doing it. Best is to fast. If while fasting also you cannot avoid it, as I gave him a full answer, as a last resort, try and do it as rarely as possible. And when you do it, don't involve at all in things which are haram. The reason I put in the makruh category and not mubah category is because I know that majority of the people who masturbate, they involve in watching blue films, watching pornography, whether it be films, whether it be images, I know. Not 100%, but majority. Whether you want to say more than 75%, whether we say more than 80%, whether more than 90%, but not all for sure. So that is the reason I would request that please, though my view is it is not haram, my view is it is makruh, but if those who are not doing it, please continue with that. That is a high level. Those who cannot restrain, and there are various reasons, I don't want to go into the details, my answer has already gone wrong. I can speak for another few hours only on this topic because that's a medical topic. There are many people who after marriage, if they have a spouse, some men would like to have sex few times a week. Some of the wives can't have more than once. So if they do, I would say it is makruh. Not that they have to go to pornographic site. They have a wife, they can think about their wife and masturbate. But if someone masturbates and robs the right of the spouse, whether it be man or woman, if a man masturbates and does not have sex with his wife, it is haram. Yes, if a husband is hypersexual, wants many times a week, and the wife can only do once a week, and then if he does, it will come in the makruh category. On the other hand, there may be a wife who may be hypersexual, the husband only wants to do once a week, and she wants to do many times a week, and if she masturbates, no problem. Not that they have to go to pornographic site. The person can think about the spouse, whether it be a man or a woman. And according to statistics, 70% of the people who are married, they masturbate. I don't want to go more into details. This was supposed to be in brief. I've spoken for more than an hour, approximately an hour, and I can keep on speaking for hours. Please, I don't want all of you to agree what I believe in. I don't want at all. But please don't say that it is a view which no one has ever said before or no scholar has said. Then I would say that your research is weak. I would like to thank all the people who have given their views and they did duas for me. I don't intend, if someone replies, I'm not going to reply again because this topic should be closed. I've already spoken for an hour. That time I spoke for 25 minutes. Now it is close to an hour. And this topic can go on and on. I have got many more evidences, etc. to prove my point of view. You may agree, you may disagree. You have to think that this is a difference of opinion. And you have to respect the difference of opinion. Not that you have to stick to one, because it has been said by scholars who are great scholars, like Ibn Hazm, like Sheikh Shawkani, Sheikh Abdullah al-Mutlaq, and many others. And I would like to thank all the brothers once again for doing du'as for me, and may Allah accept our effort, may Allah accept your effort. I love all the brothers who have spoken about me. I love them. Even if they have criticized me, I've got no problem at all. Most of them did du'as for me, whatever that I heard. Alhamdulillah, may Allah raise all of us on the day of judgment. Our main aim is to spread the message, because Allah clearly says, don't make what is haram as halal and don't make what is halal as haram. We fear that. We fear that. That is the only reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dealt with this topic. And I hope that the chapter closes here, doesn't get more and more viral. We have many other topics to discuss. Now we can throw the floor open and discuss the other issues, inshallah.